I'm Ashton Addison from the Crypto Coin Show, and today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Brian Huang, co-founder of Glider, here to talk about crypto portfolios, DeFi, automation, and much more. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ashton. Happy to be here.
Likewise, excited to dive into DeFi and automation, especially now that AI is getting involved and hopefully bringing a lot of extra value into blockchain and to computing overall. I'd love to start off our conversation by hearing a little bit about what you and your team have been building at Glider, and then we can talk about all things crypto.
Yeah, so the big picture with Glider is one, let's make DeFi easier because DeFi these days is really difficult, right? We've got users thinking about gas, signing, going cross-chain and bridging, canonical bridges versus non-canonical bridges, and all of the mechanics that can be very difficult around that. So how do we make DeFi easier? That's our guiding principle. And then two, how can we take DeFi beyond what a swap is, right? We think of a swap as a very commoditized, you can almost do that anywhere type of action. People in crypto really want a way to manage all of their assets broadly, always be earning yield on the assets that they have without having to navigate between wallets and spreadsheets and different apps. And, crypto is built for interoperability, right? And so making that as easy for users as possible is something that we strive for at Glider. At a big picture, come into Glider with any trading idea, and we solve for everything downstream of that. And again, no gas, no signing, no bridging. We can dive a little bit more into what exactly that means, but we feel like we've made it pretty easy for our users so far.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I agree. There's definitely levels to getting into DeFi, and you don't have to go take a whole university course just to master it for sure. You lost me at canonical bridging, and I've already been in DeFi for a few years. But I feel like there's such an untapped potential for millions of people who are just getting into Bitcoin and Ethereum, and even people from traditional finance that are used to like earning from their capital. Of course, there's the appreciation, but there's different ways we can utilize these digital assets inside of decentralized finance. The more, the better. So I would love for you to paint that picture on how exactly is Glider lowering those barriers, and how can we make it as easy as possible to start doing other things in DeFi with your digital assets?
Yeah, I mean, let's compare it to traditional finance because that's what people are familiar with, right? When you trade on Robinhood or you use Venmo, right? You don't get exposed to like actual transfer of stock certificates, the clearing houses, the market makers that are providing the liquidity. And when you use Venmo, right, you're not, interfacing necessarily with like how the money is actually getting to your friend. It just gets there, right? That's how the user experience should be. Um, Crypto's in its sort of, I would like to say it's evolving out of that stage where we have, these one-off sends in your MetaMask or your Phantom, and now getting to a place where we can hide a lot of those things that users shouldn't have to think about. And so, should the vast majority of the world ever have to think about gas? Probably not, right? Like they're not used to this concept of like, I need to pay a transaction fee to send money. Like, why would I ever do that, right? A really good analogy that a friend had told me is like, not just TradFi, but when you use an oven, or let's say you use any appliance, right? You don't need to know how that appliance works. It just does, right? That's sort of the idea here. And so similarly, and when we use Glider, like um, we try to, I don't want to say like, let's say abstract away everything that isn't necessary for these users to ever think about. So, you can log in with an email, you can create an account, and we pay all of your gas. We don't even mention gas, right? Like the best crypto products don't even mention this stuff. Um, you choose the assets that you want to hold within these portfolios, and uh, eventually we would like to abstract away networks, right? Like who really cares if my particular token is on, Solana versus Base versus Monad? Now, if you're a token issuer, maybe there's a reason why you've chosen to issue on one chain or the other, but for the end user, it's almost like, am I trading this stock on the NYSE stock exchange or the NASDAQ stock exchange? And it really does it make a difference to the end user?
Hmm.
Or,
Hmm.
taking a step further, who am I trading against? Is it, Jump Trading or Jane Street or Citadel that's providing the
Hmm.
liquidity? It doesn't matter. I just want to buy the stock. And that's a similar in crypto, right? I shouldn't care about all of these sort of lower down level things that are not important to the vast majority of the world. And just hold the assets that you want.
Hmm.
That being said, though, you do have to meet users where they are, right? And so today, crypto users think about things like, oh, what network is that on?
Hmm.
What chain do I need to be trading on? I think that's going to evolve over time. But that being said, Glider is chain agnostic. You can trade on any EVM chain. We're going to do SVM very soon, and then perps like Hyperliquid. Um, you shouldn't have to think about the chain ultimately. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, that's a great example with the oven. I couldn't imagine, for the oven to start working, you have to tap your phone and pay the electricity each
Could
time,
you imagine?
a $1 fee to get the pizza to start cooking. And that's what we have right now with crypto transactions. You got to pay and see, is there a high network usage right now? You got to pay extra because everyone's trying to cook at the same time. But of course, gas fees do exist in blockchain, and maybe they're on the back end, but there is still some cost there. How does that work? Of course, it's different with layer twos, and it's becoming cheaper. It's becoming decimals of a cent, hopefully. And as we aggregate the chains together and make it more mainstream, hopefully that becomes very very small amounts. But do do you bake that into a transaction, or does Glider cover that? How do you make it so that people can make a transaction happen quickly without having to worry about gas?
Yeah. So there's been a lot of really cool developments in Ethereum over the past year, and many of these are coming over to Solana as well. Um, the number one being account abstraction. And so account abstraction came out roughly a year ago, let's say, and that now allows an app or really anybody to pay for gas on behalf of a user, right? Uh, this is what we believe every app should be doing. So yes, Glider pays all of the gas for all of our users. This works well on L2s. Of course, there's probably some considerations we need to make if we want to open up mainnet Ethereum. But yeah, we cover all of our gas for our users. This is uh, a service called a paymaster. There are any number of paymaster providers out there. Zero Dev, Coinbase. Um, if you're a user and your app isn't paying for your gas, it's time for them to level up. It's been there for a year now. It's time to be paying for these things for users because it just makes the user experience so much easier. And on top of that too, when you use Glider, right? First time you connect your wallet, if you're coming in with a wallet, uh, that's the only time you get a Phantom or MetaMask pop-up, right? At that point on, it feels very Web 2, and I'll show you in a bit what I mean by that. Like there's no more pop-ups, no more signing. This all came with account abstraction as well. And so the timing is really good right now to be building apps in crypto. It's finally like the user experience is very Web 2 like. But yeah, to answer your original question, we cover all of the gas for all of our users. Yeah.
I love that, and I love that sort of call to action to the industry. If there's an app that's not covering gas, you're behind in the banking stone age. I think with layer twos making gas and transaction costs cheap, they should be covered by the app. That's how we're going to grow towards mainstream adoption. And you're explaining all this, and it brings me back to when people ask me about like they don't have Bitcoin and they're trying to understand it, and I just tell them you just have to like have it in your wallet. Once you have it a little bit, you start understanding more, right? And I feel like DeFi is the next step of complexity. That it's like how do you learn about it without actually seeing it, or if you could show me like an example of the automation and making it easy, I feel like it would just be so much easier than reading a book but not actually doing it.
Yeah, I mean, part of our platform is all about sharing too, right? So if you create a portfolio, and I can show you what that process looks like in a second, you can easily share it with a friend. And the value in that is that it's fully non-commingled. So, this is Glider is not building a vault product where everybody puts their money into some smart contract and there's a whole bunch of risk. No, because of account abstraction, you can now have portfolios that run independently from your friends. and these
Mm-hmm.
assets sit non-commingled, they can run the same portfolio strategy. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But the actual like assets are fully within your control, and they should always be. There's like very good
Mm-hmm.
reason why assets should be in your control because if you put your money into a vault, let's say, you lose the underlying utility of those assets.
Mm-hmm.
So, you put it into a vault, they might be staking your ETH, right? And you're not
Mm-hmm.
getting that
Mm-hmm.
yield because they're the ones who have access to it, right? So our big mantra is like, don't put your money into a vault. Now, if it's an actively managed vault and somebody's doing like, some type of like fund management, sure. Like you're trusting
Mm-hmm.
somebody to manage your funds. If it's a passively managed vault, we really don't see any upside to that because they're extracting value from your assets. They're not passing it back to the end user. And there's a far amount of like smart contract risk and in just putting your money into a big like slush fund that is a honeypot of sorts for people to go after and try to get into.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, shareability is the whole thing here. Like back to your original point of like, what is Bitcoin? How do you explain it? How do you get into it? We want Glider to be a thing where you can go in, you can buy a token like an ETF, and well, we don't tokenize it to be very clear. You actually own the underlying assets and you get a diversified basket across these assets. Um, these are things that people are familiar with, right? Like, I'm not telling you to go like look at a liquidity staking token and like lend it onto some like lending protocol and then lever up by borrowing against it. Like
Mm-hmm.
that is far too niche for the vast majority of the world. People can do that. That's great, and Glider can offer some solutions around that. But we just want to make it really easy for people to buy baskets
Mm-hmm.
and slightly more complicated things than just Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, we were talking before that I know you guys are in the private beta. You've been working on it. It's coming out, and you do have a little bit to share on it. Could
Yeah.
you share now so I could take a look?
Yeah, happy to share my screen here. So I'll just drop you into Glider. So this is all live, by the way. We've got a fair number of users already on the private beta. We have 200,000 people on our waitlist currently. So
Wow.
if you're out there, you're still on the waitlist. It's coming. It's not like we get five every day. We just let them off. It's a
Mm-hmm.
process at this point. So yeah, this is fully live. We've deployed on every EVM chain, but we're gating it to Base to start.
Mm-hmm.
The vast majority of trading in EVM occurs right now on Base. We'll open up more chains over time. And so, just to give you a sense of like what this is. So I've got a couple portfolios here, but this is a very simple 50-50 ETH Bitcoin portfolio, right? Nothing crazy. I got like $9 in each of these.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see here that Glider will rebalance this portfolio, in this case, every hour. But you can set that to a day, a month, a year, a minute if you want.
Mm-hmm.
And then notice if I click rebalance now, no pop-up, no gas, no signing. It just happens.
Mm-hmm.
And so this will run again every hour while you sleep, while you're away from your computer. And then the real value of Glider 2, as I mentioned, is that you own these assets. And so you can withdraw any and all of the underlying, meaning you can use any of this underlying for lending, staking, participating in governance, voting in a DAO, claiming an airdrop, etc., all
Mm-hmm.
within Glider. And
Mm-hmm.
so
Wow.
yield will be coming out before we go fully live, and a number of other sort of cool features on top of that. So this is just a portfolio. I can share this with you, Ashton. And as I mentioned, if I share this with you, you can use it. You get your own set of wallets. So notice that we hide the wallets away. If you want to see them, you can go into it, but not necessarily important. And there's no
Mm-hmm.
surprises here. If I click into this base scan link, you'll see exactly that I have $9 of both.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then when I share it with you, the cool part is you can customize it. And so this is where we get in sort of like the how do you build these portfolios? And I'll show you what that looks like. So we've built an editor. You can create very simple weights. So you can say like, all right, I want to hold only 25% ETH now, and I
Mm-hmm.
want to hold 25%. You can choose any token on any EVM chain. So we've gated it to base right now, but it can be any token once we unlock everything. And
Mm-hmm.
then Solana soon, as I mentioned. Let's just say Aerodrome. And all you have to do now is save this portfolio, go back to the overview, click rebalance now, and it will allocate to Aerodrome. So
Wow.
that'll take like a minute to run or so. There's a lot coming. So like, that's just one example of a portfolio. We've got V1 of our explore page where you can, use what other people have created. This will be iterated on before we go fully live, but uh, we think it's pretty cool. Fully
Hmm.
autonomous, like you don't need to worry about how these transactions are occurring. We route to some of the best DEX aggregators in the space, so you get the best price. And then you can see here like an overview of my portfolio as well. So, you
Hmm.
know, and actually
Wow.
it already rebalanced. So like if I go into
Hmm.
it, there you go. I'm holding $4.43 of Aerodrome. Quick and easy.
Wow.
Uh,
That's really cool. And it has like the traditional exchange or centralized crypto exchange feeling where you click a button, there's no wallet Chrome extension popping up to confirm the transaction and like extra steps and making sure that you're actually not sending it to somebody else's scammer's wallet or something like all those potential fraud vectors. It's just like a quick rebalancing button.
Yeah, we try to make it as easy as possible. There's a bunch of other blocks in here too. I can share one quickly, like, that already rebalanced, but I won't go into some of these other complicated ones. And for what it's worth, the vast majority of our users never use these blocks. They just copy
Hmm.
things.
Hmm.
But like, let's say you want to hold the top 10 trending tokens, in this case on base. There you
Hmm.
go. These are the
Mm.
top 10 trending. But the
Yeah.
cool part now is it evolves over time. So like every hour, day, month,
Mm.
it'll sell out of what's no
Mm.
longer trending and buy into what is trending. So you're always holding the
Wow.
top trending. So yeah,
That's
our
pretty
waitlist is
crazy.
open. Yeah, our waitlist is open. You can sign up online. We'll get you off and go live is coming sooner than you guys think. Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool, Brian. And the shareability, like for example, people come to us, they're like, "You've been in crypto for so many cycles. Like, can I just tell me what to buy?" And like, it's like
Mm.
we're so busy already that with sharing this. So when you share with a friend, then they can just like, if it's public, does it always have to be public? And then they just can just like almost one click copy your portfolio.
Yeah. So a couple options. You can make portfolios private. That's fine. That'll like not show it on the explore page, for example. You can, so when you share a portfolio, there's sort of two things we considered. Like one, if I share something with you, do you trust me to make changes to the portfolio on your behalf? We opted not to make that the default because people just want to copy portfolios at a set point in time. But if you know me and you trust me, and maybe this is a KOL, to manage your portfolio, you can subscribe to any changes that they make. And again, fully non-commingled, like you have
Yeah.
your own assets. It's just running the same portfolio strategy that they have. Yeah.
Wow. I've seen copy trading platforms before where people copy, but then the KOL is actually getting a cut of their portfolio or something like that. Is there advantages to sharing your portfolio like that, or is it just truly the appreciation of the assets?
Yeah. So there's a couple things. Right now, Glider is entirely free. So private beta, we're not charging any fees, and we pay for all of your gas. Just
Crazy.
burning money. No. Uh, but there's a couple flywheels here that I think are important, and these are, not necessarily anything we invented, but very crypto growth hacky type things. So when you refer a friend, you get a percentage of the fees that they generate. Again, not meaningful yet because there's no fees, but most crypto platforms do this, like just simple referrals. And then we're doing something similar, very similar to a Hyperliquid vault, where again, this is not a vault, but any of the profits that somebody generates from using your strategy or portfolio, you can get 10% of those profits. Profits only, just to be very clear.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, we'll see how that goes. I mean, we're willing to iterate on that if people want to see flexibility and how much profit they want to earn from that. But that's the incentivization to create these portfolios and share.
Well, it's a free platform at the moment that gives you that centralized experience without giving up your keys and being able to trade on your own, I think it's hard to turn down. And you mentioned it's in private beta and there's 200,000 on the wait list, which is incredible. What is the timeline looking like for moving forward and more people getting access?
Yeah, so we're rolling off people every single week. This is getting sort of like exponentially let go. And I think any good app should do this for what it's worth. Like we're letting off people more and more and more, making sure that the app scales. We're not really concerned, but you never know. And then we're
Mm-hmm.
using feedback from all of these users to iterate and change. And so we all run beta tests very often. We just launched a new onboarding, so that went out, what, yesterday? And so
Mm-hmm.
we're seeing how people feel about that, trying to make it as easy and seamless to get into the platform and not feel like you're like dropped into a overwhelming page of what is all this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I won't share too much on when the launch is exactly going to be, but it's probably sooner than you think. And then we'll be rolling out more chains every couple weeks, actually, just so
Mm-hmm.
that we can uh, one, attract new users, but also people want to trade all this stuff cross-chain, and they don't want to do it from, you know, within their wallet, which is more difficult. So more on that coming soon. One of the other things that I will say too is that we've built an API as well. And so the API is what is powering our front end. But if you're an app builder out there, or if you're a, payment provider or a wallet or a DEX or any of these other sort of dApps or front ends for crypto users, you can very easily embed a glider portfolio on there. And that's nice because you can actually charge, very similar to an ETF, like a 1% a fee for a year, right? And that's a new way to monetize. And we've made it pretty easy. So a couple of people are already building us on top of us already. But that's more of like a B2B to C play to our end user there.
It's very cool, Brian. I'm looking forward to it, and I'll definitely leave a link for the private beta access waitlist because yeah, it's moving quickly. I'm curious on your take on the overall appetite for DeFi. There's so many new entrants to Bitcoin and Ethereum with the price of Bitcoin at least at all-time highs and the 1.5 years of successful Bitcoin ETF, the institutional interest, they then trickle their way down into DeFi and other financial products inside of blockchain. Do you think that there's a strong appetite for new entrants getting into DeFi right now that, with these barriers lowered for new people to join?
100%. I mean, look, the crypto pie is quite small in the world. How many people are using crypto, on an annual basis is nothing in comparison to the population of the world who could be using crypto. I think stable coins are going to drive a lot of that adoption. But then when you think about the next, sort of level deeper of stable coins, we think it is investing. And it is not only crypto, but it is on-chain assets, right? This could be RWAs, this could be on-chain stocks at some point. And then, of course, there is always crypto. Um, I will say, like, institutions are obviously picking this up, and you've seen a lot of the news around, like, Amazon and Walmart last week who wanted to do things with stable coins and things like that. Um, we think more of the world is going to be on chain. Like that's it. You're going to be managing your assets on chain. And then let me give you a very simple example of like why it's important to have your assets and own your assets. And I think this is like the probably the crux of Glider and the value here is that, when you buy a Bitcoin ETF or Ethereum ETF, you don't actually own that Bitcoin, right? And you're actually getting charged a pretty exorbitant fee on
Yeah.
that, like on those holdings, right? Um, for anybody who is buying an Ethereum ETF, right, they might be staking your Ethereum behind the scenes. Again, I don't know the legal intricacies of that, but there are ways that they can be earning on that Ethereum that they may not be. And if you own the actual assets, you can earn, right? You can lend, you can borrow against. There's all these things that you can do with those assets. And I can take it back to like traditional finance too. Like take the S&P 500, right? If you own all 500 stocks, you can sell the losers and you can keep the winners every year. And that is a tax optimized way of doing things. You can
Hmm.
also get voting rights in all of the underlying stocks, and you can lend to short sellers, right? You don't
Hmm.
get that when you buy the S&P like ETF. And
Hmm.
so we actually believe ETFs are really dead because now you
Hmm.
can actually have fully programmable, decimalized ownership of all of these assets, right? Why would you
Hmm.
need an ETF? The convenience of buying an ETF is the same convenience of buying a glider portfolio. It's one click, right? And then you get all this extra utility on top. You get the same exposure to the assets. It's sort of a no-brainer for us.
Hmm. Yeah, no, it's super exciting considering the Bitcoin ETFs have been the most successful ETFs in history. But because there's that technological barrier on, I don't know about buying Bitcoin because of all these things about the gas fee and the wallets and that. But if we can extrapolate that out and bring something in like Glider that bring that experience where there's no foreign things that crypto had in the beginning that now we can bring it into TradFi. Would love to see that happen, and all of that Bitcoin ETF capital move into actual Bitcoin where they
Yeah.
actually own the asset and they can earn yield on it or do whatever they want with it instead of somebody else holding it for them like in the traditional finance world. I think we're trying to get out of that with blockchain. So would love to see that.
100%. We think crypto is going to encapsulate a lot of what is fintech these days, just because one of the things that I like to think about too is like think about how much money there is in sort of in movement, right? I need to send money to somebody, it takes a day to get there, right? That is interest that is lost to either myself or yourself. Um, on blockchain, it's instantly settled, right? You can
Hmm.
always earn yield.
Hmm.
And so just think about that compounded across the entire world. Instant settlement means more yield unlocked, more time value of money, more velocity of money that um, is really exciting. I mean, this is why blockchain exists. So probably preaching to the choir here.
I love it. I'm looking forward to that wait list opening up for more people, and I'm going to check it out myself. What's the best way to join that wait list and also follow along with the updates of when everything's going to roll out publicly?
Yeah, we're in all the usual places. So one, if you want to join the waitlist, go to our website. It's glider.fi. We are on X, we are on Telegram, and we are on Discord. So probably the best place to go is X, and then there's links to, anything that you need help with. We're very active in terms of like responding to any type of feedback. And so, we want to know what users want, right? Like,
Hmm.
what are things that you're doing manually today that you're like, man, I wish I didn't have to do this. Like this is a really cumbersome process. So yeah, all the usual places. Waitlist, if you just click connect to app at the top of our page, you'll get prompted to join the waitlist there.
Sounds great, Brian. Appreciate your insights into DeFi, just making it easier for everybody that's not yet in DeFi or crypto to start getting involved in true decentralized finance where they're custodying their own assets. I'm looking forward to the next releases of Glider. I'll put the social links for Glider and the glider.fi website and waitlist in the show notes below as well. Wishing you and the team all the best on everything with Glider moving forward and would love to follow up in the near future.
Thanks, Ashton.